Climber. Just what does a publisher staff songwriter relationship look like? Well, today we're going to dive into that with a successful music publisher. This is going to be fun, great conversation. Can't wait for you to hear it. So buckle up. All right, Johnny, do that thing.
Welcome to the Climb. This is the show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create revenue and leverage in the music business. It's really leverage. I said revenue because I got it wrong. We help you create leverage in the music business because that's how it works now. You got to get it all started, start that fire, and everybody that you want to work with is going to come out of nowhere and want to work with you. So, I mean, the good news on that is you don't need anybody's permission. Bad news is you got to do it yourself. So that means you got to get smarter about things. You can't just be the artist. You also got to be the business person. You also got to be the booker. You also got to be the producer. You also got to be the songwriter. You got to be doing all these things and get it up, all those balls up to a level where people are like, okay, let's do it. And that's why we created this podcast and called it The Climb, Creating Leverage in the Music Business, C.L.I.M.B. That's a backshroom from my good friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter, who's an award-winning hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady A, Joe Nichols, many, many more on country. And then he's in top 10s in Texas radio, top 10s in Australian radio. I said Austria, Australian radio. And he's got number ones in Southern Gospel. He's got, he's working all the angles, man. So you don't care about any of that, though. What you care about is that Brent will help you become a pro songwriter by revealing how you write like a pro, do business like a pro, and then on the regular, he's going to introduce you to the pros and give you a chance to create a relationship, man. You can find Brent very easily at songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. They're breaking artists digitally by identifying new fans through data. Look, if you're an artist looking to increase your streams, blow up your video views, sell more live show tickets, and get discovered by new fans, TV, and music industry pros, then Daredevil Production can help. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That is production, singular, no S. And there's no S. Why? Because there is no other Johnny D. Johnny, man,
hey,
what's up?
Man, I'm so glad you hooked up this this interview today because I love Colt. Like he's just cool and he had so much to say, you know.
So much good stuff in this episode. Yeah, man, you know, we talked so much about publishing deals and that kind of stuff on the show. I thought it'd be fun to have a publisher and really and we get way into a lot of other stuff as well, but really dive into like what's a publishing deal look like today. And I think it's going to be eye-opening and a lot of fun. We cover a lot of other stuff too. So like stuff that's going to be of interest for you as an artist or all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's a really strong episode. Right. Glad we got him.
Yeah, me too, man. And really, I mean, maybe like one of the biggest execs we've had on. Like, I mean, C.L.I.M.B is a major indie, to use his words, you know. So
their snack bar is on point. Their snack game in the writers area on point. Always enjoy my days at C.L.I.M.B.
There you go. Nice. Well, before we get to any of that, let's take care of a little business here. What we want to do is, excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. Get you to join the C.L.I.M.B community on Facebook. Search on groups and just search for the C.L.I.M B community. This is, you got to ask to join. We let everybody join as long as you can answer the questions and you don't look shady, although one just slipped past yesterday or whatever.
Yeah.
He's been roadhouse or she's been roadhouse. But anyway, guys, this is a thriving Facebook community of singers, songwriters, indie artists, indie musicians, man. And everybody's asking questions, connecting to have co-writes and making miracles happen inside of there. We're real proud of what that community has, you know, the throughput from the community, like what it's produced. I love it. So we want to hear inside this community about your new music, man. Make it as a comment on New Music Monday. Want to hear about your gigs on Thursday, and on Wednesdays we celebrate the win. So what do we got going on today?
That's right. Every Wednesday we post the New Heights post, and so look for that. I usually try to tag everybody in it so you don't miss it. but it's when we want to hear about your music-related wins so we can celebrate with you. So you're not bragging, you're just answering our question. What's good, right? So
That's
Climber, right. Sunday Joe Graham says, my EP, Jesus and Time, has officially arrived. So excited. She sends her, has a picture of herself holding it up, and that's very cool for Sunday Joe. Thank you, Sunday Joe.
Way to go, Sunday.
Yes.
Sunday Joe.
Good job. And Climber Bill O'Hanlon says, finished writing my 255th song for the year. And let's see, it is September 12th at the moment where we record this. Got a sync song signed by an agency and pitched to a Netflix show today. And my 145th cut is coming out tomorrow from the group Ships Have Sailed, an indie pop song. So congratulations, Bill. Congratulations, Sunday Joe. Keep on climbing.
There you go. I love that, man. Well, let's get into this interview, man.
All right, let's go. Today's guest is VP of Creative and Country for Curb Word Publishing in Nashville, Tennessee, or Twangtown, as you might know it. He is a native of Texas, a graduate of Belmont University, and has been with Curb since 2005. His responsibilities include overseeing the creative operations of the country roster that includes Dylan Scott, Rodney Atkins, Billy Montana, Will Nance, Joe Leathers, Ruthie Collins, David Tolliver, Hannah Ellis, Kurt Gibbs, Philip Lammons, Adam Wood, and others. And along with the aforementioned David Tolliver, he hosts Twangtown podcast, where they interview industry pros and other interesting people from the Middle Tennessee area, and I think subject them all to smelling salts.
Yes,
that's the thing.
That is what we call our Twangtown initiation. At the end of every episode, we make our guests smell smelling salts, and it's entertaining for us. But we've all done it, and we always tell everybody, no one's died, no one's thrown up, no one's had their eyeball pop out of their head. It just hurts for a little bit, but then everyone feels real refreshed and awake, and even some people go back for more. So that just shows you how crazy some people can really be.
I love it. Colt Murski, welcome to the climb.
Well, welcome to the climb.
Happy to be here, guys.
It's the strangest thing. Like, I'm on my way into work today, listening to a Joe Rogan podcast, and he whips out the smelling salts for this particular guy for some reason. Like, I've never heard Joe Rogan do that before.
Maybe the energy wasn't right. He's like, you need to wake up.
The only thing I know about smelling salts is that's what they give you in football. If you get knocked out, they try to wake you up.
Right.
Like that,
Yeah.
That's where I was always first introduced to it back in the day. But I do have to admit, I did steal that from Joe Rogan because he did it a couple of years ago. And I just thought it was so hilarious because they were just getting such a kick out of it and making each other go back and forth. And I was like, okay, for the Wheel of Shame, which is what we do at the end of every episode, I was like, that'd be a great thing for people to land on. And then after a few episodes, it took a while before someone actually hit on it. And the first person to do it was Jim Ed Norman, of all people. He was this icon, and I worked with him for many, many years. And he's like an unofficial member of the Eagles, and all that stuff. And when he did it, our first time doing it, we hold it kind of right here under our chin now, but we all got right up our nose in the bottle, and we all almost killed ourselves. Fell over in his chair, and I was like, "Oh my God, we killed Jim Ed. What have we done?"
Well, my whole thing was like, this is not in my periphery smelling salts in any way, shape, or form for forever. And then all of a sudden today, I'm getting like a double shot of it. Like, wow. I feel like I need to try this or something. I don't know.
It became such a hit. Like, David is like, okay, we're gonna do this every podcast now because it's kind of more for his entertainment, but really hilarious too, especially when I go back and listen. I'm like, yeah, that's funny. Okay, we got to keep this in.
Well, that's the whole music business. If you're not in, having fun and if not for your own enjoyment, well, you're in the wrong business, right?
Right. It is the entertainment business. We're here to have fun. And if you're not having it fun, then you're probably not doing it right.
Exactly. Well, Colt, man, a bunch on the podcast we've talked about publishing deals and kind of what that looks like. And I just think it would be interesting because I've been on publishing deals from the songwriter side of it, but I thought it'd be cool to bring on an active publisher who's working with writers every day and just kind of, unpack that a little bit for our listeners, for our climbers out there and go, okay, what does it look like, at least in your version of the publisher songwriter relationship and, what folks can learn from that. And I'm sure it's one thing, it's probably different with different writers. It's probably the same with everybody.
Yeah. So the thing a lot of people learn real quick, especially if you're new to town or new to songwriting and publishing agreements, is that every publishing agreement is exactly different. It's not the same. by any stretch of the means. Now, some can be very similar. They can be in the same ballpark, or, just kind of just depending on your skill sets and experience and talents, that can kind of dictate how your deal is shaped. So if you're a brand new songwriter straight off the bus, rolling into town and have, talent and potential, you could get what we call like a baby songwriter deal. And that's probably just going to get you enough money for your advance to, pay your bills and afford you not to work so you can write full time, which is, going to be just right there at the poverty line, which is, not exciting for anybody, but,
But get used to it.
There's horror stories of people actually sleeping in their cars back in the day or crashing couches for many years and in order to achieve their dreams. But, sometimes people get lucky and they'll team up with an artist who blows up. Like we've seen that a lot with the Luke Combs camp, and now we're kind of seeing it with the whole Bailey Zimmerman camp. These guys are writing hits before sometimes they even move to town, and Billy Rolls camp too, before they even move to town, or they just got here and their buddy gets a record deal and it blows up. So then now they have all this amazing leverage and they can ask for more money, maybe a co-pub, and so it's just kind of depending on, how good of a negotiator you are or your attorney is and all that stuff. And so there's just a lot of factors that go into it. But yeah, no two publishing deals are the same. And there's a lot of different tips and tricks you can do to have it go in your favor. But also on the other side of the coin, the publishers know a lot of tips and tricks too, and to benefit, their pocketbooks as well.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Well, you've been with C.L.I.M.B since 2005. So how have you seen the landscape of songwriting and publishing change in the past, almost 20 years?
Man, it's changed drastically. So,
well, you're all in that big old, all right, wasn't that that big old building you're in
Capitol.
now?
It used to be the Capitol Records
yeah,
building,
well, actually,
right?
Capitol never was in this building. They had it built, and then for whatever reason, they never moved in. And so,
was it RFD?
History on this building a little sketchy, but I know Gaylord Entertainment was in here for a long time.
That's right.
And then, in 2016, Mike Curb bought Word, which was in this building, and it was owned by Warner at the time. So Mike bought it, Word Entertainment, and in 2018 we all moved in here together, and just because there was more room, because we were in a smaller building at the time and we didn't have enough room for everybody. So, but yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot what the question was.
How you've seen the landscape change. Yeah.
So when I first started off as an intern almost 20 years ago now, DATs were hanging out and CDs were the way, and MP3s were a thing, but servers and emails, if you try to send someone an MP3 file that was too big, it would bounce back. We don't even have to worry about that anymore. And so I was living in the world of CDs, and when someone turned in a song, they brought me a physical CD and were like, here you go. And then I had to put it in my computer and, rip it into a WAV file or MP3 file and store it in a catalog, like on a hard drive in the building and stuff like that. And then I would say another thing that's really changed is when I first started, a lot of the writers would keep their own books. Publishers would book rights here and there, if maybe I had an angle with an artist, like, hey, I got an angle with so-and-so, I'll get you in. But for the most part, songwriters were keeping their own books, and our main job was managing catalog and pitching songs.
Yeah.
And I'd say about 10 years ago, there was a huge shift where all of a sudden the publisher is solely responsible for booking all the rights. And so, like, I'd say the majority of my day is booking or rescheduling co-writes. I mean, it's really kind of a full-time job in itself, and on top of all the other things I have to do. And so now we're pitching songs, and I don't even use CDs anymore. It's all links or using services like Disco or Songspace, which is a format that's kind of going away now. But
it went away. Yeah, I've had to move recently from
over to Disco to Songspace, which was a huge headache. But
I've been there. Yeah,
we're still here and we're dealing with it. But and I would also say the other thing is the artist co-write. Obviously, artist co-writes were always important, but back then, I would say the ratio of getting an outside song cut to an actual artist cutting the songs was way different. I wouldn't know an exact number, but I would say probably in the last 10 years, it's been pretty steady that it's an 80-20% ratio where 80% of the songs you're seeing on the top 50 charts are artist co-writes, and then 20% are songs that they didn't write and then someone else wrote that they recorded. So we're hustling a lot, trying to drag in artists and get our guys writing with them and stuff like that. But every once in a while, you see songs squeak through that it's just a good old 2-way or 3-way co-write that the artist wasn't involved in, and they still cut it. And there's a handful of great artists out there who are still actively looking for the outside songs. I mean, Cody Johnson has done that with his last 2 songs. I mean, the song he just had that went number 1 was a 100% co-written song by Josh Phillips, which is an incredible story. And the song before that, Till You Can't, Grammy award-winning song, was a 2-way, with Dennis and Matt Rogers. And so at me as a publisher, I love seeing that, especially I guess since I've been in it for 20 years. It's like, oh yeah, I love seeing the outside song win and do what it's done for so many years in this town. I mean, it's fun getting artists co-write, but I don't know, I guess just as a song plugger, the challenge is, like, hey, I got a song and I'm going to get it to that artist and they're going to cut it and have it go number 1.
Yeah. And man, especially like those Cody Johnson things, I was thinking about that earlier, and that's also where the bar is. It's Till You Can't. It's dirt cheap. It's phenomenal. Like, those are great songs. They aren't just serviceable. They aren't just like, it's all right. It's really good. Really, really good. And
very high quality stuff.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out real quick too, that like from when you started, so when you're talking like back in the old days, like when you first started and to where it is now, we can also just to put 2005, that's pre-Spotify.
Yep.
Post Spotify, so keep that in mind. I think that's had a lot to do with the different dynamics and everything like that as well.
Yeah, Spotify, I forget when Spotify first started coming around, but I remember playing around with it a little bit. But it was kind of a weird little thing on how to find and discover music, but it wasn't even a thing I don't think many, especially the recording industry, wasn't even really paying attention to. I mean, the cash cow was selling CDs and promoting songs on radio. I mean, I know even before my time, there were writers who could make a comfortable living just off album cuts.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now album cuts aren't making you any money, even with streaming, with the royalty rates. We actually just had Bart Herbison on our podcast yesterday.
Yeah,
we've had him on too. We love him.
He was, going into all that, and even with the rate increase and all that, it's still not enough. If you're just getting album cuts, you still really got to have that radio single to make any kind of significant money. But then there's also the possibility of radio going away sometime in the near future, in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, who knows? But I guess it will really depend on how much the streaming platforms take off. But at the same time, we got to get all these royalty rates straightened out.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Can we go down like from your perspective and over in the Curb camp, what I mean, if you could summarize or just give an overview, like what is the kind of, obviously you guys have been having conversations about radio maybe going away. So what does that look like? What's the shortest time? What's the longest time? What if anything, can you guys do about it, or are you doing about it to adapt if that happens?
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on who you talk to. Some people are really convinced that radio is going away, and some people are like, oh, that's nothing we have to worry about anytime soon. I think time will just tell with that, but I think also you kind of got to be a little preemptive and prepare for radio going away. How you do that, I really don't know. As a publisher, you don't want to put all your eggs in too many baskets. I guess as a record label too, but as a publisher, you're really dependent on multiple revenue streams, whether it be sync, mechanical, performance, or whatever, streaming. But satellite radio still seems to have a really strong following, even with a subscription model. Pandora seems to be doing really well. They have a lot of subscribers. But I think it's just going to be, my gut tells me that, because I remember being a kid and being in high school and never thinking the CD was ever going to go away.
Yeah.
And not my current car, but the car I had before this, which was a 2015 model, didn't even have a CD player in it. And that was 2015, you know? And so I just think with time, the younger generation, you know, the kids who are coming up with the DSPs and YouTube and stuff like that, they're, they don't even know what a CD is.
Yeah.
Let alone cassette tapes. And I guess vinyls are still kind of hanging on somehow miraculously. But, but I think over time, you're going to see radio go away. I mean, they're already trying to fight to keep AM and FM in automobiles right now. And then if
in legislation, I was just about to ask you, like,
I mean, if that ever goes away, then it's like, well, radio's done, because how many people listen to the radio outside of their vehicle? Probably
90%
not very
of
much.
radio is listened to in the car. It's consumed in the car. You know, what's interesting about that is we actually did a whole episode on it on our podcast. And
Did you?
When I saw that headline, Colt, I was like, I was four-dimensional instantly. I'm like, okay, whoa, wait a second. Like, there's legislation. I mean, radio and the automobile have been married since the first time we came out with an automobile. And, you know, I mean, the 40s, the 50s, like, it was like, you know, radio, turn the radio, like, it's all about radio. They don't need legislation to keep them together. Like what's going on there? And then I was, you know, just thinking to myself, like, you know, the other part of it was that they spun it as they have to do to, you know, some sort of marginalized group or something, that if, I think that it said something like, if the power grid goes out and the cell towers go down, they're going to need something. I'm like, how's that work? Like, you know, if there's going to be an EV mandate too, which we're headed that way, like those cars are going to be just, the radios in those cars are going to be just as good as your phone, you know, like it ain't going to work. So that's not it, right? That's not it. So what is it? Like, and I'm like, I think it's a lobby group, you know, they can't, one headline like that, and it could be like a Black Monday. It is a scenario that it could be a very real possibility. Yeah.
It's pretty wild. The whole, well, it's not music business related, but the whole EV mandate thing is wild, but it's probably a topic for another day. But you know, my wife has a Tesla that is her company car. She's in pharmaceutical sales, and, you know, those people get all kinds of great perks, but she works for a major pharmaceutical company, and they did the whole EV mandate. So everyone in their company worldwide has to drive an electric vehicle. And so she got a Tesla, and it's just like, there's no, it technically does have a radio in it, but it's really hard to find. You know, it's funny because, like, you can do Spotify or Apple Music, and trying to actually find the radio on there is like, but you know, people aren't, you know, everything we do is right here on this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So like her car, there, like, you have to access, well, I guess it does do it through the Tesla, but I know, like, my truck has Apple CarPlay, so everything I listen to is streamed through my phone.
Same here with mine. You know, and so you're saying it's like no discernible. You walk in, you're like, oh, there's the radio knobs. There's the
and she has a Model 3, so it's just a touch screen. You know,
it's like open up the laptop, booting up the truck, and that's interesting. Now, going back to the like publisher writer stuff. So let's say because you joined C.L.I.M.B in 2005, I guess, as an intern. That's the year I got my first publishing deal. I was over at Major Bob Music. And I remember the turn in too. It'd be like, here's my CD and here are my lyrics, and, you know, that sort of thing. So let's say, using Tolliver as an example. So he, you know, your booking is looks like you're booking his calendar, because back in 2005, I was mainly booking my stuff. Every once in a while, I'd have a meeting with the creative staff, like Jesse Frazier, because he was like our tape copy guy, you know, the low man on the creative totem pole there, and Scott and Sherrod and Mike Doyle. And they'd be like, who do you want to write with? Who are some people? Let's see if we can hook you up. But it was kind of unusual. Most of the time, it was just me booking and letting them know. So these days, you and your team are, you know, Tim Hunzy calls it being a calendar jockey, like trying to fill up, say, Tolliver's calendar. He writes a song with somebody brilliant you help him get with. And then, well, I guess on that, how much input is he having? Are you having discussions with him going, I love this, I don't love that person, I really want to get with this person? How's that kind of look?
Yeah, so here at C.L.I.M.B, we have approximately 35 writers on the countryside. That's with our artists who write songs as well as just staff writers. And so I work with two other people. We kind of do kind of like what the majors do. We're point people for everybody. That way, no one kind of slips through the cracks and all that stuff. So the people who I'm point for, I personally try to meet with them if I can every month,
Mm-hmm.
kind of stay on top of their calendar and their songs and make sure what they're doing. But whether I first sign someone or we're doing a regular monthly meeting, I'll get with them and I'll be like, okay, who are the artists you do write with and
Mm-hmm.
love to write with? Who are artists like, man, I would love to get in that room.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of go into the next category of, all right, if you were to write with this artist, who is a writer or two or three or four that that if you bring them into this room with the artist, you're going to get quality material.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of depending, like if they're just a typical writer, I should say, not as a track person, I'm like, okay, now you have this artist and you have this writer who is a track person or, producer that you would like to have in the room. If that talent is needed,
Mm-hmm.
and who do you work well with? So I kind of just create what I call like the wish list. It's also kind of like my barometer that I use. Like, okay, David has this skill set. I know he would be good with these writers or these artists, I should say. And then if I get him with this artist, who of his favorite co-writers would he do well with? And
Mm-hmm.
then if the track person, who would bring that sound and energy to that that would make sense. And so it doesn't, I mean, it could just always be David or an artist and a producer, or it could just be David and another co-writer with the artist,
Mm-hmm.
or it could just be David with two other writers, because I'm still the guy who believes in the outside song. So, but then it's kind of something you just got to play around with. If it's with a new writer, sometimes you could put two great writers in a room together and they may not have that chemistry to write a great
Right.
song,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
but trying to discover other writers, people who they mesh well with and who they get chemistry with and always get quality songs with, that takes a little time.
Mm-hmm.
So that usually, if it's a new writer, usually it takes about a year or two to figure that out. But eventually, once you kind of figure out those circles and you do it enough and kind of just create the right combos,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where you're probably going to see really strong songs that you can either get cut or the artist will say, hey, man, we wrote a banger today. Let's go in and record it. And so that's kind of the goal there. It's a bit of a long play.
Yeah.
It's kind of like playing the stock market. You're investing in these people and you're hoping over time that they'll grow exponentially and everybody will win in the end.
Mm.
Very cool. So let's say Tolliver, he writes a song in one of these rooms that y'all set up. How does it get on your desk? How do you find out about it? It used to be I would drop a CD off on my guy's desk. So how are you finding out about it?
It's so many different ways now. If they record the song, if it's just like an iPhone work tape, I mean, they could text it to me, they could email it to me, like, hey, check this out, we just wrote this. Or if there's a producer in the room, maybe he'll spend the next day or two fleshing out the track. So if he doesn't get it the day of the write, maybe sometime that week, he'll be like, hey, so-and-so just finished this track, check it out. Who do we need to get it to?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's typically through text or email. Everything we get now is MP3s or randomly a link, but for song turn and stuff, it's usually not a link.
Yeah. So what happens if you, I guess, A, love the song that gets turned in, say it's an iPhone work tape, or B, if you think there's possibility there, but it needs some work, like the follow-up, do you hit people up about, hey, I got an idea for the second verse, or something here's not making sense? Like, how's that kind of back and forth go with your writers?
Yeah, so I think song pluggers are different in the amount of feedback they give. Very rarely do I personally say, hey, I would change this, or that. Unless I'm not a songwriter, so I don't try to be one.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there have been instances where like, hey, I think you missed this. I think if you go back and revisit this, then you might really have something there. And there's been those instances in the past, but for the most part, I just try to leave it up to the creatives in the room. And then, you know, my job is to say, hey, I think this is a commercial song. And kind of depending on who's recording in that current cycle, you know, I'll try and find a home, whether if I have a relationship with the artists themselves, I'll send it directly to them, or, you know, obviously trying to get it to the record label or the producer or manager, if the manager's a good song person or not. So many different ways to get songs, or, you know, do the whole Chris Christopherson approach and rent a helicopter and land it in someone's backyard and hand them a big old hit, you know.
Whatever it takes.
Such a great story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, it's like
that's my favorite song pitching story of all time.
Yeah. If you get a landed helicopter on Johnny Cash's lawn, you better have a hit.
And he did.
And he did. So that's how that works out to be a happy ending versus jail time. So, okay. So if it's a work tape and you love the song and you're like, oh my gosh, I think this would be great for X artist, you know, who's coming up, but they didn't have a producer in the room. Are y'all still like setting up demo sessions, or is it like, hey, we got this track guy or girl or whoever, like what's the kind of process looking like to get that in a pitchable form? Or are people listening to work tapes?
Well, it always depends on the person you're sending it to. So some people, like me personally, I have a very strong relationship with Lee Brice. I've worked with him for almost 20 years. I can send him a really rough work tape just because I know he's a really strong song person and he could listen to it, and he'd probably actually prefer to hear it that way, because then he can imagine all the production he hears in his head. Yeah. But then there's some people who are like, you know, they got to hear a fully blown, like full produced track, you know, almost like ready for radio kind of sounding thing. So again, depending on who the song would work for, that would kind of determine, hey, we could actually pitch this as a work tape, which I try not to do because most work tapes don't sound very well. And people are like, what'd you say? What'd you say? Yeah. But if I feel like the song warrants a demo, then, you know, here at C.L.I.M.B, we have 2 studios that our writers have access to. So I'll be like, hey, this is a great song. And so either you don't have to use the C.L.I.M.B studio. There's a lot of people out there like Ilya who do one-offs and stuff like that. I can be like, hey, why don't you go see Ilya, go do a one-off? Or it's like, hey, you've got about 4 or 5 of these laying around. Why don't we go do a proper demo session and demo up these songs and see if there's something there. And I'll even do that with some of my artists, like Kelsey Hart. Actually, his song that he has out at radio right now, I was like, you just need to keep demoing songs, because, you know, he was just a brand new artist at the time, and just trying to find a song that the radio and the label would love. And I was like, don't get discouraged by when you put out a song and it doesn't do anything. You just got to keep doing it. That's just the world we're living in now. And so I strongly encourage him to keep going in and demoing songs. And one he finally did is his current single. So all you had to do was take that song and upgrade it. And now he's off to the races.
Very cool.
Yeah. And that's another thing that changes how songs are promoted to radio. Radio, all they care about are numbers and statistics. And where it used to be, the label's like, hey, we just got this artist's new album. This song's killer. Let's go run with it and make it a hit. Now it's like nobody cares about
your feelings
and your feelings and how it makes you feel. It's like, well, how many followers does this artist have? How many streams does it have? You know, how many, you know, is it being played on XM? You know, it's just pretty wild.
It's shocking. Yeah. I mean, like it used to be radio would make you famous, you know, and now you've got to be famous enough to get on radio. You know, they can't afford to lose any more listeners, man. You know, they can't afford to lose any more listeners. It's like we can't take any risks. Like it's sad, you know, and I miss that. Like when you had a really good DJ in your market and they're like, okay, I'm not supposed to do this, but I'm going to play this song back to back for the next 6 hours and lock myself in the room. That happened in Milwaukee. With an indie artist.
Cody Allen, you know, when he was in Dallas, he was doing stuff like that. He was taking songs that he really believed in and playing them too much, but, you know, he was helping break artists' careers at the same time.
Yes.
And even, you know, John Marks, when he was at the Highway, he was doing that, you know.
So much. Yeah.
Bobby Bones with the, was it Buy Me a Boat? or
Buy
Buy a
Me a
Boat.
Boat. Yeah.
Yeah, Buy Me a
Yeah.
Boat with Chris Jansen, played that. Then it kind of gave him a whole second life,
Yeah.
as an
Yeah.
artist. So yeah, love that stuff. So that's interesting. So that's kind of how an artist and their song may kind of leverage to radio. What gets kind of moving further down back the chain is like, what gets an artist or a writer on a publisher's radar? Are you looking for things like, oh, what they have this kind of activity going on, or is it just based on the songs? Is it a mix of that kind of stuff? How are people getting noticed as writers?
Man, it's so many different ways nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are really good at digging through Instagram and Facebook and finding people. Going to shows is still really important, in my opinion. Getting on those writer shows, and because there's so many more of them now than there were. So
Yeah.
having access, but also it's kind of like there's so many, it's hard to make all the shows. So
Yeah.
but you still gotta show up and be present to win, in my opinion, in that arena. But sometimes I get recommendations from the PROs, ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. They take meetings with people all the time, and sometimes they'll send people my way and be like, "Oh, this person's really awesome," or sometimes maybe they're not quite ready yet, but I still like to encourage people, like, "Hey, keep doing what you're doing, keep sending me songs." Sometimes it's word of mouth. I've had several of my radio promotions reps here at C.L.I.M.B. They're always out on the road meeting new people, and like, "Hey, I ran into this guy, and would you mind taking a meeting with him?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways that or I should say, or new writers find me, or new artists, and it's just, yeah, it's
Do you
all.
have some favorite writers shows that you like to attend? Some regular haunts that you go to?
Man, it's harder for me nowadays being a dad and all that. Got two young kids, a 7-year-old and an almost 2-year-old. So I try and get home as much as possible, spend time with them. But, I always get, emails and stuff tell me when and where people are playing, or my writers will tell me if they're playing a show, and I try and make it when I can. I love the listening room. It's a great spot to actually listen. And the Bluebird's great, but I just don't like all the rules that come along with it. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
And there's several places, here close to my office on Demumbrian and Division. The whole just kind of like Tin Roof and winners and losers and all that stuff. Local's a great spot. Live Oak's a great spot. Yeah, just wherever. I'll go anywhere, but I don't get out as much as I used to. I'm getting older and got kids, and when I was younger, I was out every night, but I can't do that anymore. My wife would not be happy.
Yeah. I got 6 kids, so I really got to pick my shots.
Oh my gosh.
So
I have 2, and I don't know how I'm doing it. So with 6, I would
really no idea.
Yeah.
Really no idea. You just lose track of some of them from time to time, but they eventually wander back, and you're like, "Oh, you're back. Okay, how was it?"
You were gone. Weird. Okay.
Okay, yeah. Well, you number 5, right? Yeah, come here. What you been up to? Yeah.
6 kids. Lord help you.
Well, that is just motivation to write songs.
Yeah, there you
motivation. So speaking of, the writing and everything, if somebody gets a meeting with you, say they're an unsigned writer, they're fairly new to town, the business, that sort of thing, and they get a meeting with you, what are some realistic expectations of going, oh man, I got my first meeting with Colt, and I'm going in and I'm all fired up. I want to be a professional songwriter. Man, I hope he's going to just offer me a publishing deal right on the spot halfway through my first song.
Yeah.
What are some realistic expectations and some do's and don'ts for a meeting?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I've never done that. I've never offered a publishing deal right on the spot. There's a couple of people who I probably would have liked to have done that with. One person who comes to mind is Caitlin Smith. I met with her when she first moved to town, and I was like, oh, this girl's amazing. And, that didn't work out. But I also remember, like, man, I've met with so many people over the years. I remember having Florida Georgia Line come into my office before they had anything going on. And something told me, I was like, man, we should do something with these guys. But at the time, no one wanted to write with unsigned artists. It's more common today.
Yeah.
But like, well, if they don't have a record deal, then I don't want to write with them. And then
Mm-hmm.
once those guys took off, there was no catching them, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, do's and don'ts. I mean, it's just, you know, meeting with me. I don't know. I guess I've been doing it for so long. It's not a big deal for me, but I do understand for the people coming in, it's a big deal for them.
Yeah.
So I would just, you know, always be professional, dress the part. I mean, I don't really care what people wear, but sometimes when you're coming in sweatpants and stuff like that, it doesn't really seem like you care. And for me, if I have the vibe that you don't care, then I'm like, well, why do I care? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying show up in a 3-piece suit and all that stuff, but you
Because
know,
that goes kind of hard the other direction going, I don't think you know
yeah,
how, that's not how we do things here.
yeah. But I mean, like if you're an artist, show up looking like an artist, and if you're a songwriter, just show up in clothes that have been washed or something. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Basically, don't let your attire and stuff to be something you have to overcome.
right,
Right.
and yeah, and just always be prepared. Like have songs ready to play live. Some people like to listen to songs live. Some people like to listen to recorded music. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've met with in the last 3 or 4 years who show up without music. They're just like, "Hey, what's going on?" I'm like, "So you don't have any? You didn't send me anything ahead of time. You didn't bring anything with you." I'm like,
Why don't
"Well,
you tell me how great you are?
it was fun talking with you, but you know, we're here for the music business, and if you don't have music, then I don't know what to tell you."
Then we don't have business. Right.
Yeah, I'll get Belmont interns from Belmont sometimes. It's a digital marketing company. I'm like, "Did you bring your computer?" No.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I mean, I don't know, but what are you going to do? A dance? Like what?
But, you know, the more someone seems put together, the more, you know, I feel like I would want to work with that person. And it's something I always tell all of my writers. It's like, I'm here. I will always work as hard as you work. If I see you out there grinding and busting it, then I'm going to get there right next to you and grind it and bust it with you. But if you're just always mailing it in and don't seem like you really care, then that doesn't give me any incentive to want to care for you, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case, but sometimes that happens, you know?
Well, it's same. You talk about diversifying kind of a stock portfolio. If I see that a company is growing, I want to buy more of those shares. Where if a company's just kind of flatlined or maybe going down, I'm not pumping more of my money into those shares. That just doesn't seem like a wise investment for me. Or in your case, it's not just you. You're responsible for like part of C.L.I.M.B's portfolio. And so you're like,
Right.
where am I going to invest for my bosses?
Right. Yeah.
Where's a
I'm
wise
here to
investment? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So on the diversification angle there, I'm curious, like sometimes, C.L.I.M.B is an iconic, huge organization to be sure. Sometimes in those organizations, maybe the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing because they don't have to like work together. They might not be in the same building,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they do. Like, do you follow, or is it sort of dispersed throughout the all the brains that make C.L.I.M.B what it is? Like, is everybody kind of aware, like on the publishing side, of what the record label's doing? And if you are like on a bigger level, like, how have they pivoted to today's market? Like, a lot of labels are moving away from the big hit business model and going towards like, we're going to sign 30 YouTube and TikTok stars or whatever and work it that way. And do you see that happening at C.L.I.M.B? And then how does that affect you? Like, is there more content that you need? Do we need more songs now? Do you need less songs? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how has that affected you?
Yeah. So at C.L.I.M.B, I'm what we call a major independent. We're a very large independently owned company. And we try to compete with the majors and we do for the most part, but we don't have the capacity or bandwidth, I should say, to do that model of scooping up, the first 30 male acts we see, or, the next 5 girl acts
Gotcha.
we see. So we have to be very strategic in who we want to sign. The publishing and record label sides, we do work very closely together. I always attend the monthly strategy meetings and stuff like that. And if there's anywhere I can input from a publishing angle into the record label side, or hear what they're saying about our curb artists who are also our writers, it's always good for me to know what's going on with them and songs they're looking for, promoting and stuff like that. But we have to be really strategic about who we sign. If we're all not excited, from publishing to marketing to A&R to promotions, then we're kind of just spinning our wheels a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But if everybody's fired up on the same person, like, oh man, this person's a star. Oh, this song's incredible. Then we can all, move in the same direction and promote that song or that artist and really get some traction and keep up with the majors. But if we just don't have the bandwidth and time, because, compared to the majors, we have a skeleton crew and a lot of us wear multiple hats. And so we got to get real nitty gritty and do a lot of different things around here just to keep up with everybody. So, but it's fun. It's challenging, but it's fun. And for me, knowing how to do more than one thing or being super specialized in one area, that always just kind of benefits you in the long run.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask one more question, Brent?
Yeah, rock on. I got one in the holster when you're done.
Okay. Have you seen, we were talking about radio before, and I'm just curious if, I know, like, for radio promotion specifically, let's say the country music, P1 radio promotion, regardless of the results, still costs the same, and on the publishing side, right, the spins still pay the same. But aside from those two things, have you noticed in the last 10 years, like, the efficacy of a number one? Like, is the number one, did it used to be worth this maybe to the publishing company and now it's worth less? Or I mean, that's the wrong question to ask because it pays the same. But, like, is the number one on radio generate less impact than it used to 10 years ago? Maybe that's a better way, all the way around the block.
I don't think there's a straightforward answer for that. It's a number one song on the radio is likened to, like what we were speaking about earlier, a publishing agreement. No two number one songs are the same.
Okay.
So you could have a number one song. Here's an example. So, like, Kenny Chesney put out Don't Blink however many years ago, and that song went up the chart in 16 weeks. Now, for everyone, that's great because the song went number one, and that's a great feather in the cap. But if it's only on the chart for 16 weeks and then maybe give it 4 or 5 more weeks to go back down the chart, so you're looking at 20, 21 weeks, that's not that much revenue. Whereas compared to, like, a Lee Brice, who
Love Like Crazy,
that's what I was going to say, 53, 54, 55, 56 weeks climbing up the chart. And that one didn't go number one, unfortunately. It peaked at 3. But that song probably made twice as much money than Don't Blink, which was a big number one hit. And so, and we even have a song on our catalog that Garth Brooks recorded that debuted at number one. It was the only song in country music history to ever debut at number one.
More Than a Memory, yeah.
More Than a Memory. And then it took it about week number one, it was at number one. And then it took it about 20 weeks to fall off. And so, and then the caveat for that is that's 100% Curb published song. So Lee Brice, Kyle Jacobson, Billy Montana wrote it. We published all 3 of those guys. And so that song is actually one of our biggest earning money songs in our catalog. And not only did it go number one or debut at number one, but it's also diamond certified. So it's sold, just the song itself has sold over 10 million copies.
Wow.
Garth would do that.
That's awesome.
Wait, is that diamond or 100 million?
Diamond is 10 mil.
10 mil. Yeah, diamond
10 mil, yeah.
Sometimes I don't get enough coffee and I'm like, wait, am I saying it?
Math, numbers, what?
Yeah. So I say that to say the mechanicals are through the roof on that one song, as well as the performance royalties are okay, but that song really shined with the mechanicals. But then there's some other songs like Lee Brice had, with One of Them Girls, It was the first song to ever win Song of the Year on all 3 PRO awards in the same year. So
Oh, wow.
I haven't seen any figures on it, but I'm sure that song generated all kinds of crazy money if it won Song of the Year with ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC, you know.
Mhm.
So
How about Colt? How about that same question? And maybe you don't have as much visibility on this on the publishing side as they would on the label side, but how about that same question in terms of, let's say, market impact,
mhm.
right? Like
what it does for an artist's career? Is that what you
yeah,
mean, Johnny?
yeah. Like, let's say you sign a new artist. Let's say you got a brand new artist. It's not a Lee Brice. It's not a Garth Brooks. It's not a Kenny Chesney, and they get that coveted number one or even like a top 10. Has the exposure, has the market penetration of that song being spun as much as it was, has it translated over to more streams and more ticket sales as much now as it used to 10 years ago? Would you have any insight on that?
I would have to say it does. The only real way our artists are making money right now is off ticket sales and probably performance royalties and
Mhm.
merchandise. But just working closely with the Lee Brice and Dylan Scotts and Rodney Atkins and other people like that. Watching their success at radio, you definitely see the translation to their live shows as well
Mhm.
as it just opens up more opportunities once you kind of ring that bell. For an artist, if you get that number one, that just kind of shows your legitimacy, and that kind of starts opening that door. And obviously, you have to follow up with that and keep bringing quality content. But I think of like Luke Combs. When he had Hurricane, that thing was bad
Fire.
analogy, bad joke here, but it was blowing up a storm on Spotify.
Yeah.
And then he got signed to Sony, and they took over from there. And then he's just been on a roll ever since. And so he's just built his career with one great song after another. And that's what all the artists are having to do who are having successful careers, even like people like Kenny Chesney and Tim McGraw, who've been doing it since the 90s, which is hard to believe.
Mhm.
Hmm.
But they're still in the game. They still have amazing quality songs that they're still going out and finding and
Yeah,
having
they
hits on
do.
radio. And that's not an easy thing to do. I mean, there's
And they
people
still
like,
both look good. They look better than they did when they got signed. Like,
what are they
what are you
doing?
guys drinking over there at Curb? Because I want some of that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know if that really answers your questions, but I would say, having a hit at radio definitely does move the needle, because the way the vast majority of the country music fan base is going to find you is at radio. Streaming is there, but I mean, if you ever go to those rural shows, that's outside of way far away from any major city,
Mhm.
most of those guys are still listening to radio. I mean, sure, the streaming thing is getting more and more popular, but you get out there in the sticks, people are like, "Hey, I just like listening to my radio and my F-150."
Yeah.
Right. Well, I guess I was just asking from the perspective of like the previous conversation we had today about radio's having a problem. The reason that we're even having that discussion is because they're not making enough money because the listenership's down. And I didn't know if you noticed, like, maybe where you noticed that difference on in terms of like what a spin used to get or a number of spins used to get and
Mhm.
what that translated to versus now. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, if you have a
Yeah.
number one, you have the most spins, but 50% of the people that used to be listening are listening now. Does it still work, or does it work as well? Is there some noticeable difference that you can
Uh,
that's
my
tangible to you?
my best answer for that would be, a spin is weighted due to its geographical location.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So if you play a song in Chicago, that song is worth or weighted a lot heavier than a song that gets played in Nashville, for instance.
Sure.
Chicago
Mhm.
is way bigger than Nashville or even like Huntsville, Alabama. So as you guys know, that there's like 100 and what is it, 60 something reporting stations.
Mhm.
So there's only 160 different stations that play songs that actually get recorded, or that oh gosh, what's the word?
Surveyed or
That, yeah, they get surveyed
yeah.
to, and or are the ones that actually determine what position that song is going to be on the chart that week. So, and there's also this whole thing called secondary markets, but we don't have to get into that. But so like your LA's, Houston's, Chicago, Dallas, those really big condensed markets, those are the ones where you get a song played there, it's worth a whole lot more. So you're going to get paid more per performance of that song. I almost said stream because we're in such a streaming world.
Yeah.
But and so I don't think, to answer your question, it's not. I'm sure there's a way how they determine how many people tune in and listen. I don't know how they do that, but I still think it's very market based and how songs are getting performed and where they're getting performed. And so eventually, I mean, radio isn't really in the business of promoting music; they're in the business of selling advertisements. So,
Amen.
I think there's a way they determine how many people are actually tuning into their shows and stuff. And I don't know. That's not my arena, but
Right.
I guess that's between the advertisers and radio to finally figure out how they're going to figure all that out.
Yeah, fair enough.
You mentioned something earlier I'd like to kind of hop back on. When you're talking about Florida Georgia Line, at the time, nobody wanted to write with unsigned artists. And of course, and you mentioned how that's changed. How, and I would agree, it's because you don't know when somebody's going to pop off or might have a streaming hit or whatever, get signed and that sort of thing. So how does that look from your end of things going, okay, I've got, you said Michael Farron is kind of a joint between y'all and word music, or say like Billy Montana, for example. So, okay, we got all these indie artists out here. We got Billy, who's high level writer, high level rooms. How are we figuring out when to pop him in or who to bring in with him if it's an unsigned artist? Like, what are maybe some of the key indicators on going, okay, this is interesting?
Or the criteria,
yeah. To get him in the room with someone like Billy or a Joe Leathers, or
so sometimes we'll have the opportunity to meet these people. We know they're looking for a record deal, and maybe they're trying to get a publishing deal to help subsidize their costs and until they can get that recording deal. But and then sometimes it's word of mouth, or you discover them on Spotify or Instagram or something like that, and you're finding their music. But sometimes there's people in town, and maybe some people they're working with, and they're like, "Hey, check this person out; they're really good." So there's lots of different ways to kind of feel someone out. But after what we saw with like Taylor Swift, FGL, and those kind of people who just astronomically took off. So I mean, once those people took off, there was no like, "Hey, you want to come back with my people now?" And they're like, "No, we're good." You know? But and it's just kind of like a whole system of hedging your bets. Kind of take chances on these people, and you listen to their music, and with years of experience of seeing what has worked and what hasn't worked, you're kind of like, "Oh, well, I see some potential here." Hey Billy, why don't you try writing with this person? And Billy might write with that person, and be like, "Hey, thanks, but they're really green and we didn't really get along." Or Billy might like, "Hey, man, that person's really good. Like, let's keep that up because I believe in that person." So if you believe in that person and they end up getting a record deal, then that person's like, "Hey man, Billy's always believed in me. I'm going to keep writing with him." Lee Brice is a great example of that. Billy was writing with Lee from day one, and they're still writing songs together to this day. But that's just kind of how it is with those bigger artists. They have their guys who've always been with, and obviously there's the Ashley Gorleys of the world who can slip into any artist camp they want because they have the clout to do that.
Is there Ashley Gorley? Yeah.
And I'm sure Ashley, he's been there early on for a lot of other people, but he has the clout to get in at any time he wants, and he's earned it. So good for him.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if you're not Ashley Gorley, you got to really get in there and you got to, it's also, music is so subjective. I have this conversation all the time. I mean, I could like a song and you guys could hate it and vice versa.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of up to a lot of other people to determine if it's ever going to be a number one hit. And it's kind of the same way with artists. I could think this artist is amazing, and you might be like, "Oh my gosh, that person's such a cheese ball. Get him away from me."
Yeah.
But you gotta figure that out on your own. And I can open doors, but everyone else has to walk through it. And And but if you believe in that artist and they do take off and have success, then that's always going to reap you benefits in the long run. But some people are really bad about doing that, putting all their eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
And you kind of gotta put them in a bunch of different baskets, because, you know, even if you believe in someone, it may not ever work out for them. Unfortunately, you know, there's a lot of people vying for a lot of different spots in this town, and there's only so many spots you can get. So it's just, you just got to be, there's a lot of strategy behind it, and, you know, there's no winning formula, but you got to figure it out, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, the thing about writing with a young artist when they do blow up, I mean, unless you are, probably even if you are super tight with them, it is like fighting tooth and nail to stay in that camp, because that's when, now they're signing, they just had a hit. Now,
Gorley, and, you know,
now the Ashley Gorleys are calling, or the Hardys, and like, who doesn't want to take that call? Because they're awesome. It's not just that they have a track record, but they've earned it. They're good.
And that's the thing, is when you're an artist, you've got to keep bringing the heat. You know, you've got to keep putting out fire songs. You've got to keep building your brand. And if Hardy's writing those great songs with you, great. If it's Billy Montana, great. If it's Ashley Gorley, hooray. You know, he's getting another number one. So, believe me, I love Ashley. He's a great guy. He's, like I said, he's totally earned it, and he's amazing. He's like the Tom Brady of songwriters, you know?
The GOAT,
But yeah, so it's just, I always say we kind of have a thing around here. It's like, in publishing, like when any of our artists are cutting here at Curb, it's like, obviously we want all of our Curb published songs to be on the album, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like Lee and Dylan and Rodney and everyone else, if they're not finding the best songs possible, whether they wrote it or they found it, then then it's only bad business for them and the label, you know? So, you know, and Lee's and Rodney and Dylan, they're all great at listening for outside songs. So and they've all had number one hits with songs they didn't write, and they're all great songwriters. So sometimes you just got to swallow your pride as a publisher and be like, all right, unfortunately we didn't get, you know, this song on the album, but hey, our buddy Lee Brice or Rodney, you know, they're having a hit with this song right now, and that's just going to keep the business doors open a little longer, so we can keep doing what we love doing, and we'll just try harder on the next album, you know?
Yeah. Keep their career strong for the next.
Always quality over quantity, you know?
Yeah. Are there any indie artists right now that you like, that you've had your eye on, that you might want to share? You don't have to share if you don't want to.
You know, I've always got my feelers out there. Kind of like what I was saying earlier, we have a bandwidth issue over here. Yeah. And so if there's someone I see that I really like, and I'm like, man, I got to sign that person, then I realize it's like, all right, there's another iron in the fire I got to put in and deal with. And, you know, there's only so much time in the day, but I have to really find someone I really love and truly believe in and see a lot of potential in for me to do that. And I mean, I wish that wasn't the case, because, you know, sometimes you don't always see it from the get-go, you know, and it'll come later. But then by that time they're usually scooped up by someone else, or, you know, or maybe they have a hit, pops off, and then the major publishers come in and offer them all the money that we can't do. So
all the shinies. Yeah.
The Ben Vaughns and Rusty Gastons come swooping in and, you know, scooping everybody up.
Yeah. Man, this has been a great conversation. I don't want to keep you all day, because I know you got to pitch some songs of some buddies of mine. So I don't want to.
I got to go make other people more money. Let's go.
Exactly. John, do you have anything before we let him go, or anything that?
No, man.
Has your pants on fire?
Really insightful, and I mean, I learned a lot today myself, so I really appreciate you taking the time, Colt.
Oh yeah, glad to do it. This has been fun.
Well,
and let us know if there's any way we can help your podcast. We'd love to.
Yeah, and speaking of which, tell us about Twangtown. Tell us where we can find it, all that good stuff, because I've listened to some of it. I've definitely enjoyed it, and happy.
Like I say at the end of every podcast, we are available on all streaming platforms. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Like, rate, share, subscribe, follow. Come on.
Twangtown.
And it's Twangtown Pod is the handle for Instagram and Twitter. And then, like I said, Twangtown Podcast on all streaming platforms. So tune in, check it out, follow us. Tell your mama. Let's go.
Tell your mama.
There you go. Exactly. She didn't have to listen, but just at least download it, mama.
Just at least have her subscribe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Colt. Well, guys, that brings us to the end of another Killer Climb episode, y'all. I mean, we're trying to bring the heavy hitters to you. The more you know, the better off you'll be, right? This podcast exists because we want you to win. So keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top.
Who ride a greyhound all night long?